Welcome back. There's been a lot of talk about aluminum these days, most of it related to tariffs that are being imposed on Canadian aluminum headed into the United States. But that doesn't mean development of projects in Canada and elsewhere have ceased. In fact, mining giant Rio Tinto has several ambitious plans and a huge investment underway here in Canada. Let's talk about it with a very senior executive of Rio Tinto's aluminum business. Jérôme Pécresse is CEO of Rio Tinto's aluminum business. He's based in Montreal. We're delighted to have him in our Toronto studio today. Thank you very much for coming by.
Morning, Paul.
The company does have a very ambitious plan going on in Quebec, $1.4 billion in spending, and I gather that project is about halfway complete right now. Can you give us an update?
Yes, so that project, as you say, is halfway complete. It's about building a brand new production line with our newest technology called AP60. So we are progressing very well. We are planning to produce the first hot metal by the first half of 2026. And it's the first major investment by Rio Tinto in Quebec in a new production line since a long time.
And how will that affect production volumes? They will increase by how much?
They will not increase a lot because what we want to do is replace the older production line we have in Saguenay called Arvida, which was getting 100 years old. So that one was getting to the end of its life. So it's more a replacement, but with newest technology, which is more efficient, consumes less electricity, and emits much less in the air.
I also see you have another project going in Quebec. This is in Alma, Quebec, where you have a joint venture which is getting ready to produce its first commercial aluminum soon. Is that correct?
Yes. That's our project called Elysis, which is actually a joint venture with Alcoa, where we are, simply said, trying to find a new way to produce aluminium, where the electrolysis process does not emit carbon. So it's groundbreaking. We have already made it work, and now we are moving to the next step of that project, which is called Elysis, which will still take many years before it becomes commercial, but it's groundbreaking in terms of reducing our impact in terms of CO2 emissions.
You mentioned a lower carbon footprint, and your background is interesting. You were president and CEO of General Electric Renewable Energy, where you helped implement GE's strategy to support the decarbonization of the energy sector. So what are your thoughts on decarbonizing the production of aluminum and what it ultimately means to Rio Tinto and Rio Tinto's sales and profit?
I think it's very important because what we see is two things. One, our customers and the customer of our customers want lower and lower carbon aluminium. And that's not going to stop because it's driven by end customer preference, be it for the car, for the beverage cans, for every product where aluminium. So that's not stopping. And when you produce aluminium like we do in Quebec with hydropower, and we also made recently a major investment in our hydropower production units, you gain more market shares. So it's quite important. And the second thing that we see is you can move towards lower carbon content while improving your competitiveness in terms of costs. So it gets you a better product at a lower cost. So that's why we are not stopping. And that's why, for example, we announced last week a $1.7 billion investment in our hydropower facility in Quebec called Île Maline, where we are basically refurbishing it totally.
How long will that project take?
That will take over the next 7 years.
Where does that aluminum go, the aluminum that is produced by Rio Tinto in Quebec? How much of it goes to the United States?
Around 80%.
Right. So what is the impact of tariffs?
I think it's twofold. In the short term, Paul, we navigate through it. There is a lot of uncertainty, there is a lot of volatility, but the reality is that every ton of aluminium which passes the US border is taxed the same, at 25%. There is very limited domestic production of aluminium in the US.
Right.
So Canada remains the lowest cost source of lowest carbon aluminium for the US. So it did not impact our production levels, nor did it impact our level of investment. I would say looking forward, we obviously remain worried. We remain worried by volatility, by uncertainty, but first and foremost by impact on our customers. Because now what happens is aluminium costs much more in the US. This starts to impact overall demand for our customers. And the problem of our customers are going to become our customers at some stage. So the impact of tariff of the US economy and on our customers is a thing that we need to watch.
The company is also making big investments in Finland and India, building, I understand, new smelting facilities, correct?
Yeah, correct. We have, today, when you look at it, Rio Tinto produces a lot of aluminium in Canada. Second pole of activity is Australia and New Zealand. And we want to become more global in aluminium smelting. So we have announced that we are advancing studies for a low-carbon aluminium project in Finland to serve the European market, and it's much less mature, but similar level of studies for something in India.
Right.
We want to be a global leader outside China and Russia.
So those facilities in Finland and India are proposals right now. They have not been officially green-lighted,
No,
correct?
they are studies.
Right.
They are studies at different stages.
Right.
Finland is more advanced than India.
What should people understand about aluminum and the world economy? We often think about copper as being a barometer of world economic growth or expectations of near-term economic growth. What's the relationship between the global economy and growth and aluminum?
I think we are very confident about the long-term fundamentals for aluminium demand, in particular because the energy transition drives more aluminium demand. I mean, you need aluminium for solar panels, you need aluminium for electric cars, you need aluminium for the cable in the grid. So what we see is, and a big part of the aluminium demand is now driven by that. So that's what's driving demand for more and more aluminium. We also see aluminium penetrating in cars because it's lighter than steel. So aluminium is well placed to substitute other materials and benefit for the energy transition. So it's a growing business. And when you have the right cost position, because we have the right cost of energy, like we have here in Canada, I think you can build a really successful business.
Low electricity costs are a major advantage for Canada, correct?
Aluminium is solid electricity.
Right.
So when you ship aluminium to the US, what you do is you allow the US economy to benefit from cheap Quebec hydropower.
My last question is about you yourself. As you know, Rio Tinto has announced that the current chief executive, Jacob Strasholm, will step down later this year once a successor is appointed. Your name has come up in some press reports as a candidate that's being considered by the board of directors. You probably don't like this question, but I must ask you, would you welcome the opportunity to become the top executive at the world's largest mining company, Rio Tinto?
Look, Paul, it's not something that you are candidate for. It's something that you are eligible to or not. And obviously on that question, the board has put in place a very thorough process. The board is full of very wise persons, so I think it's for the board to decide who is eligible and who is not, and it's not for me.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for stopping in and enjoy your time in
Thank you, Paul.
Toronto. That is Jérôme Pécresse, CEO of Rio Tinto's aluminum business. When we come back,